What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Mundane Desperados. Today we're doing something a little different. We're doing our first sports podcast. So, Cristiane and I have always wanted to talk about the Premier League in a podcast-esque form. So, today is that day, finally. After many years of talking about it, and after the first six weeks or games have already passed, we're finally doing it. So, I hope you enjoy. Cristiane and I's completely biased take of the Premier League season so far, and we hope you enjoy Mundane Desperados' first ever sports podcast. Want to do an intro now? Guess we should.
Yeah, what are we doing for the intro?
Let's make it up on the spot. Because I was gonna say something like, "Hello, welcome back to Mundane Desperados. I'm Sean,
I'm Cristiane.
and today we're gonna talk about Premier League football.
Whoop whoop.
Two
The real.
Americans talking about European
Excuse
soccer.
me. I'm Brazilian. Let's not go
Two
there.
two Americans and a half a Brazilian talking about football. Today, it's our first podcast-ish show of the Premier League season or ever. So, uh, acknowledging that we are already 6 games into the season because, whoops,
6 games.
it's flown by. I don't know. I don't like
Damn.
legitimately. I don't know how it's been 6 games already.
I guess it makes me feel a little better. Well, not a little better. It doesn't make me feel better that Tuchel got fired after 6 games.
Yeah,
For some
so
reason, I thought it was only like 3 games.
we weren't gonna start with that. We
Well,
But we can go right into it. Today, September 7th of the year of our Lord 2022. Thomas
Brazil's
Tuchel,
Independence Day. Yeah.
more importantly, Thomas Tuchel has been fired. It just
Bum, bum, bum.
how the mighty fell, right? What was it? 2 seasons ago we won the Champions League?
Yeah, he's gotten us trophies that Chelsea had never gotten before.
Yeah, like whatever the
The Club
little
World Cup,
brother World Cup. What was it? Club
the
World Cup?
Club World Cup.
Uh-huh. The high school trophy.
I
Um
mean, it's a legit tournament.
it is. Anyone who's the Club World Cup fans out there, don't,
We are
don't come after me.
champions of the world.
We are. But
We
it
have a
just,
chant, and I have a badge on my jersey saying so.
and it's not like this season has gotten off to a rough start. We're 3-1-2. Also, full disclaimer, now that we're already almost 3 minutes into this, Christiane and I, Chelsea fans. So,
Hmm.
deal with it. So we're 3-1-2 to start the season.
Yeah.
Our two losses were to teams that we shouldn't have lost to.
No, that apparently we've never lost to in their home turf.
Leeds and Southampton. The Leeds game got
Don't quote me on that.
we got
Sorry.
shelled. Like we looked like lost children.
Hmm.
It was 3-0.
God.
Southampton, and that was also the game that uh Koulibaly got a red card.
Right, right, right.
But it just from the start of the game, we just did not
Yeah.
look like we were.
No.
And then I'm gonna be honest, didn't watch the Southampton game. That was the one that was at like 7 in the morning.
I think I did watch it actually, because I accidentally woke up at 6 that morning.
And that one we just watching the highlights. We came out of the gate strong. Raheem Sterling scored in the 23rd minute,
Hmm.
and then we just fell apart in the second half. Like the
Yeah.
second half, you watched a little bit of it. Just did not play to what you expect a Chelsea team to. And then the Champions League game, just the other day.
Oh, that was painful to watch because it felt like they didn't care. Like it felt
It's
like they walked in there, thought it was going to be an easy game, so they gave it like 30%, which I will say the first like 10, 15 minutes of the game, we looked strong. Like we were shooting and like
soccer
I
team.
thought Yeah.
Shot it and we passed it, running.
I thought we were gonna score. And then after that, they were like, I don't feel like playing anymore.
So people who haven't been watching played Dynamo Zagreb, but it's one
Sure.
of those things. It's like in the off season, and we will get to this as well. One of we're hoping to touch on the transfer market now that
Hmm.
it closed last week.
Yeah.
That Chelsea spent $230 million US dollars, I think, in the off season,
Hmm.
and you're still just getting results like that. It has to come from somewhere. And usually you and I are on the same page where it's not always the coach's fault. If a team gives up on a coach, there's not really much the coach can do to win that locker room back. But
Yeah.
I
Which it
think,
sounds like is what happened,
yeah,
which also sucks because we bought 6 players to complete his team. And then not even a week after the market closes, we fire him. So
he
now
gets fired.
we're stuck with this team. Not that it's a bad team, it's a good team. But how are we gonna now make it work?
And who is next?
Yeah.
That's the next big question. I mean, Pochettino got thrown out there. That would be an interesting pickup.
Brighton's coach, manager Potter also apparently is in talks, which would be a very much slap in the face to Brighton fans because they're doing great. Like, aren't they third place, fourth place?
Brighton and Hove are right now in fourth place.
Yeah. If you are that high up on the table, you don't quit a team.
Uh, I mean, if it's to go to Brighton to Chelsea, yeah, you do. That's, I mean, that's a
I'm
jump. That's a
surprised.
career jump.
I know, but I'm surprised Brighton is even letting these talks happen.
But if you think about it, like looking at who they've beaten, they beat Manchester United, a very out of form Manchester United, the first game of the season. Then they tied Newcastle, they beat West Ham, they beat Leeds, they lost to Fulham, and then they just laid the shellacking down on Leicester.
Yeah.
Which, going into that, like, which is who of that makes him stay? Yeah, say yeah, I want to stay here.
I don't know. I feel like if I were Brighton and I was in fourth place right now, I'd be like, we're doing something right. We're not changing anything. I don't care if Chelsea comes knocking on the door offering, I don't know how many millions of dollars
Well,
for
if I was
this.
the owner, yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm the owner of Brighton, I don't know. Money is money in the Premier
Yeah.
League. But if I was the Brighton coach, who did you Potter?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a career. That, as I said before, that's a career.
Hmm.
Graham Potter is now trending, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the big news of the day. Start
Hmm.
off the show. Thomas Tuchel out at Chelsea. Very surprising. I did not.
And
I did not see that coming.
one more question on this, which I've seen a lot of, so I've been reading a lot of posts online from fans everywhere who are both happy and angry about this. A lot of people are so quick to now start hating on Todd Bowley and being like, oh, he's too trigger happy. It's only 6 games into the season and he's already firing a coach and blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that
I don't
Bowley now
know.
is just impatient? Like,
It is a good question. See it in American sports all the time,
mm-hmm,
where whenever a new owner or a new coach comes into an organization, that person wants their man or woman
mm-hmm.
in the roles that they get to pick. And I
Yeah,
don't know if that is transferring over, where he inherited Tuchel and the Chelsea team.
mm-hmm,
And so I don't know if it is that American way of thinking of I have bought this team, I want to make it in my image now.
yeah,
But at the same time, are not playing great. Like it
yeah,
just not translating onto the field. I say not playing great. Like we still have won 3 games, but we've lost 2 games. And we're
yeah,
not playing the Chelsea brand of football that come to expect. And I think that's, I mean, you look at Frank Lampard, like Frank Lampard's first season. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we played really well. And we had some really
Hmm.
young stars that also played outside of their mind. Like Tammy Abraham, the rise of Mason Mount. Like we had a lot of really young academy stars that were playing well outside of what their expectations were. And then the next season, what like 10 games in, Frank Lampard gets sacked. So,
Yeah.
I think in the Premier League, if you're a coach or manager, that margin of error is so small. But then on the other end, look at Manchester United. When they started this season, oh my gosh, there were literal riots in the street of how they started this season because they lost to Brighton, as we said earlier, and then they got stomped on by Brentford. And then they beat Liverpool, then they beat Southampton, then they beat Leicester, and then they beat Arsenal, who at the time an unbeaten Arsenal, and they
Yeah.
looked very convincing beating Arsenal. So
Yeah. I'm kind of bummed because I was excited for a bad Manchester United.
I th- as I think everybody was,
Yeah.
but because if you also want to talk about it, we talked right before this. Chelsea should not have beaten West Ham. We got saved by the
It's
grace of VAR.
it's tough because they shouldn't have gotten their first goal either.
Fair, yeah, and there were some questionable non-yellow cards and non-red cards in that game,
Yeah. So
but
if anything, it should have been tied 1-1.
yeah, but that's still so. Then you're looking at a Chelsea team that's two, two, 2-3 instead of 3-1-2, something
Yeah.
like that. So, um, yeah, big news of the day. Had to get it out of the way first. Thomas Tuchel sacked. Maybe a trigger happy Todd Bowley. I mean, as you said, like Chelsea this offseason has spent a ton of money to bring
So much
people in.
money.
Based off of the transfer market site, Chelsea has spent $310 million this offseason.
Damn.
And so if I'm an owner and I see that paycheck, because Tuchel led a lot of those signings,
Yeah.
and we'll get into it. That's a segment that we're going to talk about later is the transfer. But if I see that paycheck or that check amount, and then you watch the game and it's not what you're expecting, may have been a time for a change.
I still think it's a little too early because, like, the transfer market closed last week.
Yes.
Then we've had, what, two new players on, like, the last day of the transfer market that had, like, what, 3, 4 days to train with the team?
Yeah, Aubameyang and Fofana are the
Yeah.
two big ones.
So I feel like it give him, like, another week or month.
Yeah,
Let the
fair.
players get to know each other. Let them practice and get a feel of each other. Don't just that's just my thought. I just thought it was a little too quick, especially with the brand new signings.
I mean, I think you are not out of what the rest of the world is thinking.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on to
Moving
the
on.
the beginning of the season. At the time that Cristiane and I planned to do this, Arsenal was undefeated. They
Which is just how did this happen?
are not anymore. Um, I mean, it's gonna go back to we're gonna talk about it. Just the transfers. They do we just want to? I mean, they won the transfer market. I
Yeah.
know Erling Haaland at City, huge, huge
Yeah.
story. That's gonna be the next thing that we touch on. But bringing in Jesus, bringing in Zinchenko, bringing in Vieira, bringing in Marquinhos, like they just racked up talent for not that much of a checkbook
Yeah.
amount.
Because a few of those were free, right?
Jesus, I think, was around 60. Zinchenko was around 40, and Vieira was also around 40. And those are three really good pickups for, I think, just around or just maybe a little over their market.
Hmm.
But because then you looked at the departures, like you lose Guendouzi, you lose Torreira, you lose Leno, lose Bellerin, lose Lacazette. I think Maitland-Niles they loaned out, Pepe they loaned out. So they're sold or loaned a core amount of their team here.
Yeah.
Gabriel Jesus coming in. I mean, some of the
So
preseason
angry.
games he looked spectacular, and he has kept that form going. But that is definitely a shock of how well they started the season. And granted,
Yeah.
as we talked about, they sort of got to come to against Manchester United,
Hmm.
but
They got overconfident
maybe.
and they just
I mean, when you're
downfall.
playing that well, I I would be too. And then after Arsenal, we see Manchester City, which I don't think anyone is surprised about.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about a team winning the transfer market, the player that won the transfer market is Haaland.
Yeah.
Easily the biggest star to come into the season.
He's just too good. It's not fair.
Just immediately producing for that team. I mean, he had two consecutive hat tricks
Yeah. He has 10 goals total.
in 6 games.
Yeah.
That is an absurd scoring pace.
Like, just give him the prize already. He's gonna get it.
And didn't he score 2 goals today in their Champions League game?
I don't know. Manchester City.
Sold for stats. Should have
Uh,
stats music.
yeah. Yes, he scored 2.
I mean, come on, not fair. But
I think the interesting game will be because don't they play Arsenal this week? Am I making that up?
they
Oh,
play
no, they
Tottenham.
play. Yeah, that will be an
Tottenham this.
interesting game.
I mean, I haven't been able to see a lot of their games. A lot of their games are really early in the morning.
Yep.
But the games that we have seen, they just look like they're on another.
Hmm.
I know they did just tie Villa, and they did tie Newcastle, which were both sort of shocks. Well, they weren't sort of shocks; they were shocks. Like I didn't that game. If you after Manchester City beats Nottingham Forest 6-0, if you were to ask me to guess the Villa City score, I would have
Yeah.
also said 6-0.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, considering Aston Villa is in 17th place.
yeah, it just that was a surprise, but the games that they have played well in, they have dominated. Okay,
I mean,
the City Villa lineup was Cancelo, Diaz, Stones, and then Walker got subbed out for Ake,
mhm.
and then Erling Haaland scored.
As he does.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at their front six, like Gundogan, Rodri, De Bruyne, Silva, Haaland, and Foden. I mean, that's an elite. And then they brought in Mahrez off the bench for Silva, and then they also have Jack Grealish just sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
That's an elite striking team. And
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see if their defense does hold up over the season.
I hope
Although
so, because I
the
don't want Arsenal to win.
that's again biased Chelsea fan,
Yep. Sorry. Not
but
sorry.
the goal that Bailey did score for Villa, if you haven't seen the highlight for that, you should look at it. It
Oh, I
was
haven't.
a top tier goal. But again, it's just even top tier goal aside, not something you see City give up. The next team up, Tottenham. Tottenham 4-2.
Oh, Tottenham.
I feel like Tottenham's one of those teams that is always good, and then it's
Mhm.
always surprising that they're in the top four.
Yep.
Like I have not been following them at all, and then it's like, oh, they're third. Who would have thought?
I actually don't think I've even seen them play this season yet. I've been watching all the other games, but not them.
Because if you want to talk about transfer market for Tottenham, they brought in Richarlison, they brought in
I know.
Perisic, they brought in Lenglet. Like they brought in some quality players this, and they still have Kane, they still have Son. Hugo Lloris's still back there, the ageless wonder. Like they have a I feel one of their stronger teams that they've had.
hmm
Holberg's starting to step up, scoring goals now. So he has as many goals in 6 games this season as he did all last season, and then all the season before.
Oof.
So him scoring goals is a good news for Tottenham.
Good news for Tottenham, bad news for us.
I mean, this season's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be because as we said, Tottenham plays City next. That's gonna be the
That's gonna be a fun game to
yeah,
watch.
that's gonna be the game of this weekend. But then you look at it, as we talked about, Brighton in 4th place right now.
Yeah.
That is one of the teams that, if you ask me anything about Brighton, other than, I mean, we got Chelsea, bought Cucurella, and then Brighton picking up Billy Gilmore from Chelsea.
Sad.
Looking at the players that Brighton sold this offseason, or this transfer window, Cucurella, Basuma, Aupe, not have expected to play as well.
No. But hey, keep it up. If Chelsea doesn't win, Brighton all the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna ride coattails, might as well root for the underdog.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Manchester United. They started off the season pretty slow. They've picked it up since then. I mean, that's one of the bigger news stories at the beginning of season was just the vitriol, absolute hatred against the Glazer family at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And this is a question for you because
Uh-huh.
I didn't really get it, to be honest. Again, we're not in the UK right now. Different
hmm
culture, entirely different sports world. But in American sports, you want your owner to open the checkbook, buy players, and then just don't get involved.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what the Glazer family's done. Like, you look at their transfer signings over the years, and they've brought in good players. Like this year, they brought in Anthony Casemiro, Christian Eriksen. Um, they did part ways with Pereira, and Cavani, and I think Jesse Lingard as well. Like they've had some people depart. I think Paul Pogba went back to Juventus,
hmm
but I mean, all of those players were people that those owners brought in, and at the time, great signings. Like when Manchester United first signed Paul Pogba, they're like, oh, but he's gonna run all over the. It didn't quite work out,
Yeah.
but I just don't. Is that what was your take on that?
I feel like it was just fans have to blame someone for some reason. I mean, obviously, we love to blame the refs during the games. We love to blame the players.
Half of
Love to
us
blame.
likes to blame.
And like it's kind of what's happening with Chelsea right now. Everyone is angry that Tuchel is out and are immediately hating on Bowley. So I feel like it's their way to just not cope well with their teams losing. I mean, you know me. I scream, I get angry, I get stressed during games, I cry.
That doesn't sound like you.
And but yeah, I feel like it's just the moment they start doing better again, they're gonna forget about this hatred. Or they might not. They might still be like, "Oh, we hate them." But I feel like it's just the typical They got to blame someone, so let's blame the guy all the way up there.
Because listen, their first two games, admittedly, they looked
Yeah.
terrible. They did
Yeah.
not look like a team, especially Manchester. We talked a little bit about it that Chelsea in their losses have looked very un-Chelsea like. Same thing
Mhm.
with Manchester United. Losing to Brighton and losing to Brentford the first two games of the season, not what you would expect from a Manchester United team. But
Yeah.
then beating Liverpool, Southampton, fine, whatever. And they beat Leicester, have fallen off the table. And then beating an undefeated Arsenal. Like, they've brought it back.
Yeah. I will make a small note. Is beating Liverpool right now that great? Because I think Liverpool is on a downfall.
That was the next topic. Do we just want to get into it? Liverpool
Yeah.
right now, seventh in the table with 3 draws and a loss.
And just got stomped on in the Champions League.
And just, yep, they did. Yeah, nothing more to say about that. They lost to
Yeah.
Napoli. Napoli,
Four to
right? 4 to
one.
1.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not what you were expecting of a Liverpool team.
No. I
And
mean,
that
it's
is, sorry, go
still
ahead.
a good team. Like, this isn't, they sold a lot of players. It's a transition period. This is still their top tier team.
Well, that's what I did want to ask. I did want to bring up their transfers in the offseason. Not a lot. They brought in Nunez, who I think
Hmm.
is going to be a great forward eventually. They brought in Carvalho from, I think, from Fulham, right? For pretty cheap. But
Hmm.
then, I mean, just elephant in the room, Sadio Mane leaving
Yeah.
is really one of the only changes. Like they've had Minamino left, who got some playing time last year. Neco Williams left, who was Alexander Arnold's backup. Ben Davies left. So it's not people who are instrumental to that team. They lost a little bit of depth, but their starting 11 pretty much the same except for Sadio Mane.
Yeah.
So just what's the difference?
I mean, dare I say, it's just players are getting old, or people are now so well aware of their style that they can just walk right over them.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think anyone's quite walking over.
Well, yeah, but like,
It's
you
like
know what I mean. Like, if you,
they know how to
y-
match up against.
yeah,
And I think that's sort of what it is. I think they lost a little bit of width with Mane leaving.
yeah,
I mean, we say this. They did beat Bournemouth 9-0. So,
that's true.
like, they've had an interesting start to the season, but
But
they
like,
can
when
still
it
score
counts,
goals.
like your Champions League, you don't start off weak.
Yeah.
Like, you should be going all out. Like, I say this to Liverpool, I'm saying this to Chelsea. Like, you don't just let other teams beat you like that.
But it's still interesting. They're still scoring goals. Like,
Hmm.
Salah has 2 goals, Firmino has 3 goals, Diaz has 3 goals, uh, Carvalho has 2 goals. Like, they're still scoring goals. It's just, dare I say it, usually they're very organized, very strong defense, I think, is failing them.
Hmm.
Because if you look at it, I mean, I say that they've given up 6 goals this season. They're +9, but most of those we just talked about were from Bournemouth. I haven't seen a lot of Liverpool games this season, so I can't really speak to how where they're playing, but just from the highlights, their defense just doesn't look as organized as you would expect a Liverpool defense to look.
Yeah.
Especially they still have Van Dijk, they still have Robertson, they still have Alexander Arnold, and they still have Matip. But I mean, yeah, that's sort of the big six. Big six
Yeah.
plus Brighton and Hove. Sort of the wild beginning to this Premier League season.
This is gonna be a great season.
Yeah. A lot of results that you don't expect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
It's good to have the Premier League back in our lives.
Oh, I missed it so much.
So, the next thing we had to talk about was the transfer market. We sort of went over it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in the transfer market?
I think that was it. I mean, Ronaldo's stuck in United, so
Yeah, that's good. That was a weird one. some of the rumors saying that he wanted to leave, some of the rumors saying he wanted to stay, and then ended up that no one did anything.
Nope, nothing happened. Although it sounds like just no teams wanted him.
Yeah, I think we hit all the the main talking points.
Willian is back in the Premier League.
Willian's back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Fulham, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought? Have fun. Have fun not winning, Willian. But it's good to have you back. Yeah, if we're also talking about uh, the USA representative team, Leeds,
Oh yeah.
picking up some strong American talent. Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams having really good seasons so far.
Mm-hmm.
And Leeds themselves, sort of surprising.
Yeah.
Leeds right now in the top 10. I mean, so is Fulham and Brentford, so we'll have to see how the rest of the season shakes out, but they're 2-2-2. So I know they lost some talent. Rafinha leaving for Barcelona was a big blow, and Calvin Phillips going to City. But they picked up some really, really good young talent.
Yeah.
And then Jesse Marsh, favorite American in England right now, getting red carded the last game. so, so yeah, I think that's wrap up of the first 6 games of the season. Transfer market closed for this part of the season. So yeah, I think last week for this, or last last week, last thing for this week is looking at the games, these upcoming games. Hello everybody, just a little insert before we get into our game predictors for the weekend. Since this episode has been recorded, the news has come out that Queen Elizabeth has passed away. So a lot of the early games for this upcoming weekend are a little bit in doubt. There may be a delay on this weekend of games, but uh, yeah, thoughts to everyone going through any emotions that you're going through right now, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Upcoming
So I don't
games.
know if you wanted to do like a prediction, and we can follow back to see how each other did.
Yeah.
It has now become a competition. I have sat up in my chair.
Oh.
So
Well. Damn. Okay.
the first game, Chelsea and Fulham.
Um. I'm hoping a revitalized Chelsea now that the players got their wish and no longer have Tuchel. I'm gonna say 2-1 Chelsea.
I wasn't going to score. I was just going to say Chelsea's going to win.
Oh, okay. Chelsea's gonna win.
Chelsea's going to win. Bournemouth and Brighton.
Brighton's gonna win.
Brighton's going to win. This may be not that entertaining.
I'm
Leicester Villa.
gonna say a tie.
Aye.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fine. I'll go Leicester to win. Maybe their fates will change between them being really bad last week and hopefully not as bad this week. Um, Liverpool Wolves.
I'm gonna say Liverpool.
I'm also gonna go Liverpool. I mean, they're going to turn it around. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of what week they turn it around. Southampton Brentford. Brentford? Brentford.
Buzz Buzz.
Buzz
I'm gonna
Buzz.
say
Brentford.
Brentford.
I'm gonna go with the tie.
Okay. Okay.
Actually. Alright, yeah, you convinced me. I'm going Brentford.
All right.
City Spurs.
I think it's gonna be City, but I think it's gonna be a close game.
I think it will be a very back and forth game. But
Yeah.
you can always. The Spurs are very hit or miss on these big type games. They either really show up or they really don't.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a game where they show up. I think City's still going to win. I think
Hmm.
Haaland is too good. I
I
think
know. Just give him the ball and he'll score. Like
I I think De
even when
Bruyne
he's
and
jumping in
Haaland.
the air, not looking at the ball, it still somehow hits his foot and goes into the goal.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne and Haaland are gonna have very good games. I think it will be a close game. I think, yeah, maybe around the 2-1 region,
Hmm.
saying earlier, but uh, Sunday games.
Right, you
Arsenal.
start with the Sunday games.
Okay. Well, first up is Arsenal Everton. Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Arsenal. Everton's not doing well this season.
No, they're, which is
Would
sad to
not be
see.
surprised. Yeah,
Sad Raj makes me sad.
I know. I would sadly not be surprised if they get relegated.
And still a lot of season left,
Yeah,
but I mean, just what I've seen, it goes back. They just don't look to be playing inspired football. That's
yeah.
not. I mean, that's not entirely fair. They did just tie Liverpool, so who knows? Maybe that's the turnaround that they need from the beginning of the season. Because I think right now they, I mean, a lot of people are tied to be real, but they're 0-4-2.
Mhm.
Next up is West Ham and Newcastle. I'm gonna go for a Newcastle win.
Oh, I'm gonna go with West Ham.
Oh, okay. And then rounding out Sunday is Man United and Crystal Palace. I think Man United in the form that they're in are going to be hard to beat, so I'm going to go United.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with United.
And then the Monday game, Leeds and Nottingham Forest. I'm going to
Oof.
go with Leeds.
I'm gonna go with Leeds too.
All right, so we'll have
Poor
a.
Nottingham
I
Forest.
just
I was really rooting for them. I was like, damn. Like before the season started, I was like, if I'm gonna have a team that's not Chelsea win, I want Nottingham Forest. It's not looking that way.
yeah, you hate to see it. They've lost three in a
Yeah.
row. They have won a game though,
Yeah?
which I think only two teams have not won a game yet, Everton and Leicester.
Everton.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good place to call it, right?
Yeah?
Gone over the first 6 games of the season. A wild transfer market. Most money
Mm-hmm.
ever spent, $2.2 billion. Chelsea, 310 million of that. A lot
Somehow,
of
and I
money.
think I have pounds in my website. Nottingham Forest is fourth place in the total spent.
I mean, you get that promotion money. They spent a lot of money.
Yeah,
Hopefully, they can turn it around a little bit.
I hope so.
Talked about the first 6 games of the season. Talked about the transfer market. Gave some predictions on upcoming games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it. Go Chelsea.
Thank you everyone for coming and listening to our first episode of our hopefully continuing Premier League conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoyed any part of what you heard, or also a Chelsea fan, or not a Chelsea fan, or hate Chelsea,
You
like,
can yell at us. It's
subscribe,
fine.
yeah, do the YouTube things, leave a comment telling Christiane how bad her takes are,
Mm-hmm. I'm used to it. Sean tells me all the time.
literally all the time.
Yeah.
So, um,
So,
yeah,
please.
thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening. And we hope you have a good rest of your week until the weekend, where there's more
Woo!
Premier League soccer.
Go Chelsea.